When I saw her, she was weeping uncontrollably. The story she told me made me want to weep with her. Mrs. Duke had come to Colorado on vacation with her husband, who was 1 month away from his retirement date. Without warning, he had collapsed and gone into cardiac arrest. As Mrs. Duke watched the medical personnel work on her husband, all she could say was, "We had so many plans for this time. He can't die." She had tried to call several people on her cell phone, but no one answered. She was all alone and away from home, staring the possibility of her husband's untimely death in the face. When I introduced myself, she made one request. "Pray," she said. We prayed, and then went to the waiting room while her husband was operated on. I asked her if she needed something to drink. "Water," she whispered faintly. As I rose to get the water, she grabbed my hand and cried, "Please don't leave me. I'm all alone." I sat down and hugged her as she cried out her grief, pain, anger, and frustration. She cried for a dream deferred, for all the things she should have said to her husband, for a God who had seemingly forsaken her. Then she became still. We sat, holding hands and in silence for more than 2 hours. The initial awkwardness of our clammy hands melted away as we relaxed into the silence. Neither of us felt the need to say or do anything. It was an example of the divine concept the Taoists know as Wu Wei, or the action of non-action. We were in the flow of the silence, communicating peace and comfort to each other through the stillness. God was present in the silence. Mrs. Duke's tense muscles relaxed, and her shallow breath began to deepen. She leaned back in her chair and began to whisper, "Thank you," to no one in particular. It was a profoundly sacred moment. Later, a staff member came to take her to her husband. With tears in her eyes, she asked me, "Did you feel that?" I nodded. Smiling slightly, she said, "I can manage now. Thank you." And we hugged. As she walked off to be with her husband, I was left with the understanding that sometimes silence speaks more powerfully than any words. I thanked God for the rejuvenating power of silence and went on my way. Nicole Saxon, Penrose St. Francis Health Services, Colorado Springs, Colorado.